What's up, guys? It's your favorite broker and host, Wayne Chappelle, and I'm back at you with another video from the mini series having to do with sellers. And I'm going to label this video "Who's on Title." And the reason that I'm labeling this video and bringing this topic up of who's on title is because it doesn't happen a lot, but it happens more times than none, where somebody has interest in a piece of real estate that's being sold, and they have not been made aware of the sale or the transaction that's about to take place or that has taken place. So title has to do with an owner of real estate or somebody who has interest, right, in that property, in that piece of real estate, right? They're said to have title or ownership in that property. Now, when you're working with sellers, you need to understand who is on title, right? Who actually owns that piece of property. It could be a husband and wife, could be a brother and sister, it could be, a relative that, is living out of state, and the relative that's in state is trying to sell that property. There's a whole bunch of things that go on with sellers and potential sellers that try to sell property without getting the consent of everybody who is on title. Now, and a whole nother video in regards to, types of ownership when it has to deal with, tenants in common, joint tenancy, severalty, all these different types of ownership will determine how this title gets conveyed. But as a real estate professional, as a real estate agent, as a real estate broker, if you're representing or going to represent a seller, you need to understand title. You need to understand how to get a copy of the deed. You need to understand how to get a copy of this paperwork to verify who's on title, who's on the deed, and who has the actual rights to convey property. Because like I said in my previous video, when we were talking about the buyer, actually the first video I did when we were talking about the seller, there's not a whole lot of things that's going on the seller side, but their main responsibility is to convey title to the buyer. And if you don't have everybody signed off on who has actual interest or title or ownership in that property, you're going to have a problem when it comes to a title search. Nothing's going to close or get to the closing table without a title search being done. And if it does, that's a flaw on everybody's part on so many levels. But especially if there's a lender involved, there's going to be a title search done. There's going to be title insurance that the buyer is paying on behalf of that lender. So there's a title search that's going to be done. And when the title search is done, it is going to show if this is the case. For example, a son selling, who has interest in a home that he grew up in, but it's still partially owned by, let's say, the mother. The father died, and now the son is part owner of this property. The mother doesn't live in it anymore, or maybe the mother does live in it. I've had this situation before where I was representing a buyer, investor buyer, who is purchasing the home. The son is trying to sell the home, and he did not get the approval or signature of his mother, who's also on title to sell the home. So we ran into a scenario where, things got complicated because the actual mother, and in this case, it was actually the grandmother, that did not want to sell the property and put a cease and a halt on the sale, on the transaction happening, which, led to court orders and led to a whole bunch of stuff, that my buyer, got thrown in the mix with. But this goes back to title and who's on title. So as a real estate professional, especially when you're dealing with listings and you're dealing with sellers, it is critical that you understand and who is actually on title. And it's very easy for you to go down. This is all public records. Remember when I said in another video about constructive notice, when things are filed, and typically if a property is purchased and it has a loan on it, or had a lender involved at some point in that initial closing, there's definitely going to be some type of recorded deed and documents that are down at your county clerk or at the local municipality in regards to that property. So you want to do your due diligence as a real estate professional, and this goes whether you're on the buyer side or the seller side, but especially if you're representing a seller and their main responsibility is conveying a clean title over to that new buyer. As a real estate professional, you want to be able to ensure that. You want to be able to verify the information that that seller is giving you. Now, typically, a seller, if they're on point and they have all their records squared away, they're going to be able to, while you're at their listing presentation or shortly thereafter, be able to provide you a copy of those documents for verification. But sometimes you have sellers that say, hey, I filed these away. They're, stuck way back in the closet somewhere, or they're, over in my storage unit, and I'm not bothering to dig those out. You may have to do some legwork as a real estate professional to go down to the county, wherever that property is located, and actually dig those records up yourself to verify the information that the seller gave you. Don't be one of those real estate professionals that don't do their due diligence in regards to verifying this information. It's very critical, and you're going to look really bad if you get all the way through the title search and now that buyer's agent is looking at you and asking you some very tough questions on why you did not verify this information. But again, a good buyer's agent is going to ask for this information up front. They're going to ask for proof of it. They're going to ask for legal description or something going into this transaction. But as a real estate professional on the listing side, once again, you want to make sure that you verify this information. I cannot stress this enough of who's on title, right? That is a big question that you definitely want to make sure representing the seller, because not all sellers are going to tell you the truth. You're going to, get out there possibly and do your own due diligence, find out that there's somebody else who has a ownership interest in that property, and you're going to have to figure that out, hopefully sooner than later, of how to resolve that issue, either to get a quick claim deed or something filed to get their interest removed from that property, so that deal can, so that property can be transferred. But that's a whole nother story. I just wanted to, go over this real briefly so you guys are aware of the situation of who's on title. As a real estate professional, as somebody who's representing the seller, it is your duty to go out there and make sure that you do your due diligence and verify that information. So with that being said, I want you guys to go out there and have a blessed day. Go out there and make it happen. Again, I need your comments and feedback below so that I can tailor this channel and provide value to you guys on a consistent basis. And once again, have a blessed day. Go out there and make it happen, and I'll see you guys on the next video.